So this will just be for me. So please feel free to share as you would, even if we had not recorded. Okay, well, we are 3 minutes after, so let's dive in. And if anybody, actually, Simone, I'm going to make you co-host just in case people join late. That way, if I don't notice them, you can let them in.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm so glad you're here today with us. We are the community of practice for the state certified protective factors trainers. And a couple years ago when we started this, you all had written in feedback from a summit a couple of years ago that you really wanted a space to connect with each other, to learn from each other, explore new tools, and really rekindle that protective factors training motivation. So that's really what the space is designed to be for, that we can give each other an opportunity to share and connect and learn some new tools as you're out there spreading protective factors word. So today we're really going to spend time in a whole group discussion. If you have attended the last few sessions, it's typical for us to go into small groups and then come back together. I'm going to switch it up a little bit because I think there's going to be a lot of value in having this conversation with everybody. And since it's a relatively small group, I think logistically that should work just fine. So let me tell you what I want to spend today doing. We as a team at Prevent Child Abuse Arizona have been thinking a little bit about what it could look like to reimagine the protective factors training. If we created something that was really tangible and really impactful, what might that look like? How might that differ from what already exists? And so I wanted to use this opportunity to really pick the brains of all of you incredible trainers here who have a lot of experience with this curriculum, and for you guys to help me reimagine what it could look like to be out there telling people about the protective factors. So I want to do that with 3 questions, and this is the first one. So this first question, I wanted to ground us in what we already know works. So I really want to hear about a successful training that you've either taken part in as a participant or facilitated yourself that you would consider to be top of the top, like best training you've experienced. And I really want to know what made it stand out, what made it so great. And this is not necessarily a protective factors training, though, if that's the best one you've experienced, by all means, let me know that. But it really is, broadly speaking, what has made a training experience really successful to you and why. And I want us to really ground ourselves in that before we dive deeper into protective factors specifically. So that said, I'm going to stop talking now and I'm going to open it up and hear from all of you what your answers would be to this question. And you can feel free to just unmute and pop in. You don't have to raise your hand or anything. It's a small group. I think we can just unmute ourselves.
Miss Shelley, I'll go ahead and share. Yeah, so for me, something that I feel has been very successful in the trainings that I've led, or even others that have brought in hands-on. So I do our cultural trainings through protective factors, but I love to do arts in it. So right now, the most biggest one is doing our 3D model painting. And so we bring a gourd and we talk about a gourd. And I try to do this across anything that I do is something cultural, but bringing in that protective factor of, art is therapy. And people have, I mean, from children to adults, like just the workshop in general has just been very engaging, and more conversation is happening because then people are like, oh, what color are you using, and just even why did you use that color. So for me, I know just having a training that is engaging with some type of art and using art as therapy, especially as Native, has been so powerful. So
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so, and you're so right. It's like giving people something to do together creates like all this additional opportunity for collaboration and connection and conversation. Yeah, Great. Other thoughts about what has made a training you've led or been a part of really successful or really stand out?
Using some different strategies. We all got comfortable, I think, since the pandemic with, okay, I know Zoom and I know this many tools in Zoom and I know that and so on and so forth. And so we, in a lot of ways, gotten comfortable with just the tools maybe that we learned at that point in time. Maybe we've thrown in one or two new things, but I think so many people have done so much Zoom training that it's kind of like, okay, what now? What else could be different? What's a different way that you could utilize it? Even if it's using some old tools with Zoom, for example, the Jeopardy game, things like that people don't get to use very often that can be really effective. And so just either coming up with or getting trained in some new tools and or combining them with some old strategies to make them feel new again, so that people don't check out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that, Patty. Yeah, novelty, I think, goes a long way to help people stay engaged and really tune in because it is very easy, especially in a virtual space, to let your mind wander and do other things. Thank you. Other thoughts?
For me, there are a few things I could think of, and one of them um, has to do with the structure and pacing of the training itself. Being the planning that goes into preparing for training, having a clear agenda, making sure that I balance what I'm saying with some real life experiences or real life examples that they could connect with and relate to, and how I manage that time and pacing. But also, I think is the relevancy of the content. If I'm training in an area that the participants are vested in, they tend to participate more and they tend to be more responsive to the training. So giving them content that's relevant to them and ensuring that there are ways for them to connect with that content and to show them how now to take that content back to their agencies, their organizations, and apply it. Because oftentimes, and I've been around in education for decades. And I remember going to so many conferences early in my career and coming back from the conferences and it's like, okay, this is great. I learned so much. Okay, now what do I do with it? How do I make it work for me? So making sure that you provide them with tools that they can apply immediately when they return to their environment. And of course, as those who mentioned before, the type of engagement, how you engage them and keep, whether it's through visuals or games or whatever, however you engage them, I think that's important as well. And then finally, I would say providing a supportive environment for them, making sure, first of all, that the training space, and I'm not talking about the location per se, but that space and the affective part of that training comes across as being supportive, that it's positive, it's affirming, it recognizing the value that the participants themselves bring to the table because they're there because they have value, right? So affirming that value, positively reinforcing them, placing some emphasis on how they can grow and how they can improve and how they can really thrive in their environments and is very important, and ensuring like you do, Michelle, with this kind of conversation that we're having now, providing that community of practice where they know that they can come back and gain some more tools or ask for get some clarification on things, perhaps even throw around some ideas that you can then come back and say, hey, that's a great idea. How about this? So where they feel that support environment is there for them so that they can feel connected to that community that could help them through their trainings and through their experiences. That's it.
Absolutely. Dr. Neff, you are speaking my language. The next two questions have to do directly with what you are bringing up. So I'm so grateful that you
Well,
shared.
before you go there, Miss
Yeah.
Shelley, I would like to piggyback. Dr. Neff made some excellent points. And I want to just add a little bit to what she was just saying, because and I like to say that we want to make sure that the information is always, I think she said this, but a little bit differently, culturally sensitive.
Mhm.
And make it culturally sensitive, because this material isn't often developed with Black Black and brown people in mind. Is often developed outside, and we're often the add-on. And so when you look at something like the protective factors, which is so powerful, and in our community, we've used these protective factors for such a long time, but we've called them something maybe a little bit different. And so making it culturally relevant to our community makes a big difference, and it gives us now buy-in to believing what is being said, and not just, so many things are done without us in mind. There's so many things that are so much. Oh, I thought I had my video on. There's so much training that happens without, so much training, so much assessments or testing that's done without Black people in mind. So we're never the focus of anything. We're always the side bar, the side conversation. And so when you make this protective factors training really focusing on who we are, culturally sensitive and relevant to who we are, it makes a big difference. I just wanted to add that point on there, because I know that when I've done that training, I've gone through, and sometimes, because I think this is such outstanding work, but it needs, sometimes is so, I'm going to say the term like whitewashed, but I hope you know what I mean when I say whitewashed. Is like is cleansed of anything that relates to me specifically. It doesn't sound like me. It's not sounding like it's something that I would say to my kids or do for my kids, but it's something, but we do this all the time. And
Absolutely.
that's really been our super strength in the Black community, our protective factors.
Absolutely. Yeah. Dr. Dawson, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because you're so right. There's so much, it's like, even by packaging up a curriculum and presenting it as a training to people, the implication is that this isn't already happening, or that you're unaware, or that you don't already come equipped with all these things. And that could not be further from the truth. And so it is incumbent on the trainer to figure out, how do I make this make sense for the people in front of me? And also, both of you mentioned relevance. The thing about adult learners is they will not engage if it's not relevant to them in their lives. And if I can't find a way to immediately apply this, I don't care. And like and so, training adults is like, you have to really, really do your work to make sure that you have built something that is going to be immediately helpful to the people who are on the receiving end. So yeah, I'm so glad you shared that, because it's so true. And I think, yeah, there's a lot we could do to make it feel more relevant, more tangible, and make it make sense for Black and brown audiences.
Michelle, your mention of relevancy and adult learners, one of the things that I think stands out with the trainings that we did is the perspective taking exercises that we have, particularly if we want an example of the four corners. That always seems to be an enjoyable exercise that we do. And I've also been to a trauma-informed training, which I absolutely loved. And we had this perspective taking exercise that literally brought people to tears. So I just feel like that's very powerful when we're able to find some type of activity or exercise, get everybody on their feet, to implement, what we're trying to teach or train, and then, have them exercise that empathy, really putting themselves in the shoes of, of whoever we're trying to, the skills that we're trying to train on.
Thank you, Rochelle. Absolutely. Yeah, I think, yeah, it is. How are you creating those opportunities for people to take on other perspectives, you know, and how are you making it something that people can really sink their teeth into, metaphorically speaking? Okay, well, I don't want to move on too quickly, and we do have time. So if there's anyone else who wants to share with this question.
I have one thing to say, Shelley.
Yeah.
So what has stood out for me as far as like when I've been in the protective factors training is having one more, like having like 2 or 3 presenters, because it kind of makes you look forward to hearing what the other presenters going to say, rather than just having one person share all the information. So I think that's that has helped me just to stay focused and like attentive.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's like a different way to bring in novelty, right? Like to Patty's point, it's like strategies that are different, but also even just having literally different voices can be really helpful. Okay. Thank you, Dan. Any other thoughts before we move to question 2? This is gold, by the way. I'm so glad I'm recording it. So I can share it with the team. Okay. Well, I'm going to move to question 2, but of course, if anything pops up, you are always free to share. Okay, I think we already talked about my sub question that I forgot I wrote in there. So I'm gonna move on to this question. So we really want to find ways to make each protective factor very concrete, very tangible. And Simone and I were talking yesterday a little bit, and it's hard for me to come up with a list of ways to do that for every single protective factor. It's much easier for social connections or concrete support, but I wanted to use your brains to figure out, you know, what are examples that you've used or just things you're thinking of now that would really make something feel like an audience member could really wrap their head around what it is you're talking about. It makes sense in their life specifically. So, you know, if you could connect to a specific protective factor, that'd be great. I just wanted to have you guys help me figure out what are examples we could use. And just, you know, if you would do me the honor of just pretending like we're not restricted to the curriculum as it exists, because I really do want to go beyond like the videos or the examples that they've included and think about things that feel really, really relevant. Feel like probably the easiest example for me to think through is social connections. And I won't take credit for her idea, but Simone had an excellent idea yesterday when we were chatting about this, about attaching a family-focused event like free admission to Science Center, for example, attaching that to some training so that whoever you're training, whatever professionals you're training, you're actually giving them the opportunity to build a specific protective factor or maybe more than one by virtue of attending the thing you've created. So it's like we've created space to make social connections with other parents, or maybe we've created space for you to learn something specific about social and emotional competence in children, but it's built in and part of the training that you get to experience and build yourself before we ask you to go out there and help other people build it. So I guess that's what I'm asking is like, what ideas, even if you've never done it before, just things you think could help someone either understand the specific protective factor or build that one in real time.
Michelle, I think if I had the opportunity, I would build on the social and emotional competence of children, just including the spectrum of autism. You know, because I think with the curriculum that we have, it's more specific on if there's any disabilities, specific disabilities of a child, but with the spectrum, it's so it just varies, you know, it's a large vast of, you know, where does a child fall, and it's not necessarily age based. So, it could be any age. How and when can we, and especially for trainers that, don't have personal experience, like how can we include the discussion of what does it look like for children on the spectrum?
Yeah, thank you, Rochelle. Yeah, and I think potentially even
Yeah.
helping people find resources if they need help diagnosing or getting services.
And also when you think about that, so she started with social and emotional competence of children. I'll just stay right there. When you look at trauma exposure and what happens to children, especially in an era of the reoccurrence of what I call infrahumanization. And this infrahumanization is a term that this man Levins, Leyens, did back in like around like 2000. And and I just found this term out in my research I'm doing right now. And he was talking about how people they don't see you quite as you're human. It is, and then to me, I equate it to the 3/5 law. They don't see you quite as human, but you're human enough not to be an animal, and then but not good enough to be all 100% human. And so with that mindset, I now what I attribute to you because of your behavior is justified. So I look at you, if you have, I was looking at my research I did, my dissertation, there was a 3-year-old boy who was expelled from school because he kissed a little girl. He hugged and kissed her when they saw each other. Well, that's a natural thing. But if you, in your mind's eye, if that child is not seen as a human, but now he's a predator because he's grabbing and kissing a little white girl that's 3 years old. They're grabbing and kissing each other. They were happy to see each other. But he gets expelled from school because he's been adultified. So we need to make sure that, this infrahumanization is not something that we're carrying on when looking at the social emotional competence for our children. You're scratching your head.
Oh, no, that's literally it.
Oh, I thought you were.
No,
I thought you were.
No, I think that's an incredible point, and that's also a new term for me too. And I think it is so important to think about how are we giving people the tools or even just the space to recognize, like, what you're saying reminds me of that cognitive bias. And I don't remember the name of the cognitive bias, but it's like when you know someone well or when it's yourself, you're going to attribute any of your mistakes or when you don't show up as your best version of yourself, you attribute it to your circumstances, right? It's all about the environment. And then for anyone else, it's about they're inherently flawed. like
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think like helping people understand, that's a cognitive bias that we all hold, and you have to be aware of it, and you have to
Right.
recognize it and make sure that you're not making decisions, especially about a
Because
3-year-old
in
boy.
essence, we all think better about our own group than the
Oh.
other person does. We all do.
Yeah.
That's natural. That's normal. And it'd be abnormal not to think that.
Totally. Yeah.
So, but we've got to make sure that I'm not thinking that I'm better than you are.
Right.
We're equal as, people, humane people.
Yeah.
And not that you're less because you look different. Or that when something happens, that you do that's social, that it comes under the social emotional competence, that I'm not thinking of you outside that realm that makes you worse than.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's so much context needed for each of these, right? Because each of these on its
Are you
own-
sure you want to talk about all these today?
No, I mean, we could talk about, that's so funny. Like even just social emotional competence in children, it's so layered and so deep. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's a tall order for any single training to do justice to all of these, but yeah, I mean, I did want to create the space for if there are things that are new potentially, or things you've tried and you're like, you know what, this example that I shared really helped this person understand this thing, or this activity we did really helped them, you know, move forward in some way. That's what I really want to hear about. Because I know that there's like really innovative things happening. So
Miss Shelley, I have one thing to share. So here at Duet, since we support the grandparents who are raising their grandchildren, we offer the opportunity for the protective factor of the social connections. Because many of the grandparents, they feel like they're like the only ones raising grandkids. They don't know like other grandparents raising their grandkids. But we do offer social events. So they come together. The kids also see that there's grandparents raising, grandkids. So they're able to connect, they're able to relate, and then they're enjoying the time together. So that has helped some of the families in our program because some of them don't, like they say, I just isolate, I just stay in my house, I really don't have much to do. But if they come and socialize, it's helping it's helping them and it's helping the grandkids.
yeah, there's something so affirming about meeting somebody who like shares a really specific thing with you, so like being raised by your grandparents is one of those things where you meet somebody else like that and you're like, oh yeah, we're going to be best friends. Yeah, it's really affirming.
So I'm going to jump in on that because I have this idea that I've been tossing around in my mind and trying to figure out how to bring it to fruition in my community. And it's called micro community building, where you teach, in the context of parenting, where you teach parents how to identify or create small pods of 3 to 4 trusted individuals who they can call on when there's an immediate need. And it falls under the social connections piece. And what I like about this micro community building concept is that it's very intentional, and they're like-minded individuals who commit to being that support network for each other. They're immediately accessible. There's deep trust building that takes place with this micro community. There's a lot of personalized support. There's purpose, there's structure to it. And it gives parents, whether it's grandparents or whomever, whatever the group is, it gives them an opportunity to find real-time support when they need it. So it feeds into the second factor of concrete support in times of need. So you build that community as part of social connections, and then it provides support, and it provides whether it's information or concrete things, to the families in times of need. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Dr. Neff, thank you for sharing that, because that's exactly what I mean when I'm thinking about how do we bridge the gap between here's some information about social connections to here's an actual method by which you can build out your network. And I think like something really concrete in that way, it's like, no, you have a task. Now you're going to go find 3 to 4 people, and that is going to be your network that exists if something comes up. And I think it was Claire recently was sharing about there's research out there that proves that just having somebody to call, whether you choose to or not, is it helps regulate you. It helps you, get through life stressors. And I think that's such a powerful, that's so powerful. And if people knew that, and then not only, knowledge is one thing, but actually getting connected to this program or this, whatever protocol, whatever we call it, that actually gives you like the means to do it, or even the courage to do it, maybe. It's super effective.
And the benefits of it that I've kind of figured out so far is not only does it provide tailored support, but it also reduces isolation because you're not alone. It also builds resilience, and it prevents crisis escalation, right? So you have a group that could talk you up the ledge before you jump over, right?
Yeah.
So
Which we all need, right? Like we all have people in our lives who play that role for us. And
Right.
that's so cool. How exciting. Oh, okay. Other thoughts, things you all want to add before we move to the third and final question? Sorry, I keep muting myself because there's music where I am and I don't want to drown it out. Okay. Well, with that, I'm going to move us on to the third question here. So I really wanted to really dive deeper into this idea of turning knowledge into action, because it's one thing to give someone, and Dr. Neff, you illustrated it so beautifully when you talked about early in your career, going to these trainings, learning so much, being so inspired, and then you get home and you're like, cool, like, what do I do? How do I incorporate this into my day-to-day life and my day-to-day work? And so I thought we could try this question that I came up with, sort of inspired by The Office. If any of you are Office fans and have seen that, it's a mockumentary style. And there's so many shows that are like that now. But if you imagined yourself to be part of a camera crew creating a documentary about some family support organization, it doesn't have to be yours, could just be any general family support organization. And this organization, the staff members of it, have really fully internalized the protective factors such that they're really making sure everything they do is aligned to the protective factors. We're going to pretend. If that's the case, I want your help in thinking about what are the actions you literally see those staff members taking and how is it demonstrating a specific protective factor? And also there's no like list of right answers. Like I genuinely don't know and want you to help me come up with a list.
I'll take a stab at it. So I like the one about knowledge of parenting and child development because what we always try to do, and I'm sure you all do too, is we try to embed it throughout everything we do. It's not just, okay, we're going to talk an hour about child development. No, it's how we treat the children. It's how we treat them. It's how we talk to each other. It's calling out strengths of the family. It's, saying, oh my gosh, look at how well she's walking now. I haven't seen her in so long. And to the parents, it may have been 2 months ago that the baby started walking. And so to them, it's not that new, but then to hear somebody else, make a comment about that and acknowledge their child's development and all of that, or, oh my gosh, he's using so many new words. I haven't heard him talk so much in ages. And so embedding it in everything we do and making it natural, not just something that's academic or that, but just it's part of everyday life that we're all interested in our children and we're interested in each other's children. And that ties in with some of the others, such as the social connections, when you have other people, other parents, noticing things and realizing things about, their children. I just have to share quick anecdote, if I will. Recently had a parent, so the first day of school, she takes her two little girls to school, and they're in a common area. And her two little girls are standing there and they're kind of pointing at this little boy across the room a little bit. And the mom's kind of like, girls, what are you doing? What are you pointing at? And they said, oh, that little boy over there goes to family night. And these little girls are 5 and 6. okay? They are recognizing they're part of a bigger community. And they're talking to, and then they're going over to talk to him and say, oh, now I know somebody in my new class. And and then pretty soon the girls say, and there's his mommy over there. So they're acknowledging other adults that they feel good about being around, and that they're part of the community too. And that just said so much to me when that parent shared that, because to see, when you talk about that we're community hubs, and you talk about community development, that's not necessarily economic development, but true community development, that's starting at the youngest ages of that community awareness, and that those feelings that they had of, oh my gosh, they were excited to see this little boy that they maybe hadn't been with outside of our center, and now he's in their school.
Thank you, Patty. I love that. It is so sweet. Yeah, it is. It's social connections matter for parents, and they matter as much or more for kids, right? We all need it. Yeah, I love that. Also, it's no one really wants to be in a new space without a familiar face. So the relief I feel as an adult when there's someone I know in a space full of people I don't is, I think even now. And so how much more do kids need that? Any other examples of things you would probably see if people were really living these out in an integrated way? Patty, thank you for mentioning that it, like, if you really internalize these things, it's really embedded in all that you're doing. It's not sort of relegated to these like hour-long workshops.
Michelle, I just had a fun example. So for the protective factor of the concrete support in time of need, one of the things that we do here at DeWitt is the holiday drive for the families. So like last Christmas, we ask them, what do you think their grandkids would want for Christmas? And some of these grandparents, they're on a fixed income. They don't have a lot of money, everything's so expensive. So we're able to, within $35 per gift, what do you think they would like? And so last year there was a grandmother, and she's like, I'm so glad you guys can help, because otherwise we wouldn't have a Christmas. So they just know that we're here to support even things like that. It makes the family just feel like, we're going to do something that we're going to celebrate, but had they not helped us, it would have been a little bit not so big of a celebration. But yeah, so they know just like they can, get some support, and it helps the family.
Yeah, that's huge. As a kid, I mean, if you celebrate Christmas, as a kid, there's like, that's the ultimate. Because waking up on Christmas morning and getting the opportunity to open something new is like, it's just such a critical core memory. And so, yeah, it does not surprise me that they're incredibly grateful for that. And that's such a good example of concrete support. I think I've heard often people mentioning, things like utility assistance or rental assistance, and obviously that is so important too. But, even extending beyond that, I think it's really helpful. Any other examples that you want to mention before we wrap up our time today? Okay, well, I trust that you know how to find me. So if at any point something comes to you that you didn't share, please feel free to reach out, let me know. Because we really do want to figure out how we know this curriculum, this framework is so powerful, but I think what makes them powerful is that everybody already comes imbued with all of these things. And so if we can figure out a way to help people make it feel more than just another training, another class, we want to do that. So thank you so much for your help and your ideas here. gonna share everything you've shared with me, with my team. And I want to plug the next community of practice, which I haven't yet sent the invite out yet for. I will do that tomorrow when I get back to all of my monitors. But it is going to be November 6th from 3 to 4 p.m. And we're going to come back together and have an opportunity to catch up and learn from each other, share resources. All of that. So before I say goodbye and sign us all off, are there any last words anybody wants to share?
Thank you. It was a good discussion.
Thank you for being here.
There was one word that I want to share. Hey, everyone. Sorry, I've been so MIA in this meeting. I've been realizing more and more how critical mindset shift is to the world that we want to create for children and families and the world that we want to be in. And I think that protective factors and articulating what they are and that they are actually part of every family, regardless of who you are, is a critical part of shifting mindsets towards, a culture that focuses on surveillance of families and kind of catching the bad things and punishing it, to really supporting families to get what they need to ultimately prevent the bad stuff from happening. And so I have loved protective factors in my work because it is a way to uplift what it means rather than pointing to what you don't want to see. It is what you want to see. And mindset shift is, I think, more important than ever right now because there's such extreme dialogue out there, and so keep on doing what you're doing in terms of giving this frame because it is so critical for the world we want to see.
Claire, can I add to that a little bit? I'm so glad you said that because I'm of the same mindset, no pun intended, if you would, because I see protective factors, and let me just give you the statement that I repeat in my mind. Protective factors are not programs, they're practices. They're things that we do each and every day to help us build resilience and do all the things that we're talking about. And oftentimes as trainers or as educators, we approach it as though it's a program, but it's not. We have to look at it as practical things that we implement each and every day to help families thrive and grow and all the good stuff. So thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Katrina and Claire. I think that's so important. And it isn't necessarily natural, right? Like Claire's mentioning that it's really everyone has it and that we're all come imbued with these strengths and that it's about building what exists already in families and naming what we want to see versus what we don't. I feel like that ties back to the knowledge of parenting and child development so nicely because, the number one thing they tell you when you're a parent of young children is don't tell them to stop doing whatever it is they're doing. Tell them what you want to see them doing instead. And I got to tell you, that is so hard. Like it's so hard for me to remember to do that. I fail to do that so much of the time, even though I know it, but it's because I feel like we're so primed to do the opposite. We're so primed to talk about what we don't want to see, what's wrong, what's bad, what we want to critique. And there's a place, but yeah, being able to name what it is that you want to promote and what it is you want to get out in the world, I think is so much more effective. So anyway, I think it's super valuable. And I appreciate all of you for your time and your attention and your incredibly profound thoughts. So thank you so much. And you can expect a calendar invite from me. And if you need to get a hold of me, please feel free to reach out. Thank you all. And I'll talk to you soon. Oh, wait. Oh, yes. Thank you, Patty. Thank you. Bye, everyone.